Good evening and welcome. I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host for this podcast, and we're here to fight CPS and stop taking our children. Yes, CPS does take our children. They traffic our children. They're professional kidnappers. In fact, with that word professional kidnapping, I want you all to think a moment. About 8 social workers in the year 2022 decided to wear pink t-shirts, and on the front it said professional child kidnappers, and on the back it said, where are your parents, where are your children? That's the attitude of social workers. They were caught wearing it at a store, and of course they're dismissed. They thought it was a joke. It was taken very seriously, and the director now is in Prescott, Arizona in the year 2022. Just think about that moment right now. All of you listening, you've entered the realm of CPS. And when I define CPS, I say it's a child protection system. Now, in California, it's called the Child Protection Services, CPS. Other states it may be called that, but then some states, Arizona, it's the DCS, Department of Children's Services. In Georgia, it's something different, and so forth. So when I see CPS, I'm talking about all the branches of social services. It's a government agency, and it's a very tricky agency. I was fooled by it. In 2010, I lost my job through no fault of my own, and I started getting CPS interested in me and my family. I have 6 kids, and I have a wife. 3 of her kids, luckily, were grown up and living on their own. The younger 3, still at home, were caught up in a nightmare. We all were caught up in a nightmare. It is a nightmare when it happens. If you know the story of Alice in Wonderland, Allison fell in a rabbit hole. And that's what CPS is. It's a hole. It's a spider weaving a web around you. They'll draw you in. They don't care about you. They're not transparent. They're not respectful. They lie. They deceive. And they use the police as their pawns. They dupe the police into thinking what they're doing is legal. They don't care about your civil rights or constitutional rights. Now, I'm speaking from experience, and I know that a lot of you out there are probably the same feeling too. I've talked to over 500 people in different states, and they in turn have said pretty much the same thing. It's a $50 billion business where they make money that is paid from the federal government, which is your taxes, at a high amount given to them, and approximately $20,000 per child per month. That's a lot of money. And 3 of my children were taken in, and that was $60,000 a month they were getting. So if you can imagine, if a couple hundred people they have, it's a lot of money. And as long as they keep the case open, they get their money per child. And that's all they're focusing on. You know, there's all these things I read now, and I wish I'd known all this in the beginning when my case started. But my unhappiness didn't start to 2015. But I'll get back to my story in a bit. I wanted to welcome you all very much because I know that you're taking your time to hear me, and you've previously people have talked to me too. There's no question about that. Some of you are regular listeners and so forth. I'm not an attorney. I'm a loving father and a husband of a family of 6 children and a wife of 32 years. The only problem is that instead of living my golden years, I'm doing this issue where I'm fighting CPS. I've been fighting them for now going on 14 years. 2010, for 5 years, I was able to hold them off. But in the 2015, they tricked and duped me into coming to my home and then taking my children. I gave them permission without the knowledge that you don't have to give permission to enter your home. You don't have to give permission for them to take your children. They need a court order, a warrant to come into your home or to take your child. It has to be something issued by the judge. Now, CPS works in dependency court. It's not a criminal court. It's a court differently. When you are charged by CPS, they're based on allegations they heard from either a professional or a layperson that called in. And they believe the person that called in, what they said is true. And you're guilty until you're proven innocent. It's the only court I know which works the opposite of all other courts, where you are not guilty until you're proven guilty. But in CPS, you're guilty. And it's going to be at least a 1-year program. I mean, they basically have 1 year to do the family reunification. If your children are younger, they want it 6 months. But all of you that are coming into this room, are involved in a case, and I want to make sure this podcast helps you. And I know how you're feeling right now. I know you're lost and whatever it is, but this podcast is an interactive podcast. You found me on Facebook by searching, Fight CPS. And I'm broadcasting on YouTube using the StreamYard application. Now, one way that you can participate in this podcast is you can text in a question about your CPS case or about anything in CPS. I want to keep it to CPS. All I ask is your name and what city, state, and country you're from. You're right. You heard me say country because there are countries listening to this podcast. I've had Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, Ghana, Mexico, Mozambique, and Denmark but text in their questions. So please text in and I'll try my best to answer your question. I can look it up. Keep in mind, knowledge is power. You need to learn, and I did not learn. I made a mistake. I made a lot of mistakes, and I'm, hopefully sharing the mistakes I made so you don't make the same. But the internet has lots of information about how to fight CPS, about the stages of your court proceedings, of how to get everything in there. There's lots of information there that can help you. Now, another way that you can participate in this podcast, you can call in at 626-698-0990. That's my office number. It's live. I'm on the show at 10 in the morning Pacific Standard Time for an hour and 7 o'clock at night Pacific Standard Time for an hour. I'm on 7 days a week. That's 14 shows. I do on Sundays start at 8 o'clock instead of 10 o'clock. This is the only exception. And so, you can find me one of those times, and you can call in at 626-698-0990. Now, if you want to schedule a time that you can be on my podcast, all you have to do is talk to Grace. She's my producer, and she's in the background, and she helps me do this show. I'm very thankful for her. Now, to reach her, if you want to be on my podcast, is you're going to email her. And it's Grace at VincentWDavis.com. It's Grace at vincentwdavis.com. Email her and tell her I want to be on Bob's Morning Show on Monday, or I want to be on Bob's Morning Show on Wednesday. You can pick the show, and then she will help you set up and help you get on the show, and then you could broadcast. It's an option if you want your picture shown, but you can also do it silently there. Now, when you call in right now, all I have is voice on speakerphone, so you will not have to worry about being on camera. So please email Grace if you want to be on my podcast at grace@vincentwdavis.com. Now, I want to thank Mr. Davis, who produces this podcast. He has a law firm, Vincent W. Davis and Associates, with many lawyers in different areas. He is a family lawyer. And I want to, introduce you as my rule number one. You're going to need to find an attorney, because without an attorney, it's a miserable experience. As I told you, you're like Alice in Wonderland, falling in the rabbit hole, and there's so many twists and turns and doorways that go nowhere, and people that say nothing doesn't make sense. Remember, it's that spider weaving a web around you, and you need somebody that can navigate and work for you. So you need to find an attorney. And I don't know how important I have to tell you, but think of it as open heart surgery. If you need open heart surgery, are you going to get a plumber or a lay person to cut you open, or yourself try to cut yourself open? No, you're going to get a professional. And that same thing holds true for CPS. But you say, wait a minute, don't they give you an attorney? Yeah. The attorney they give you is called a public defender. And if you can't afford one, they provide you one. But what's sadness about that public defender is that he is carrying a big caseload of 30 or more cases. So you won't have the time to meet with you privately or fight your case. In my experience, I went through a couple public defenders, and they're useless. I've heard of one guy in here that went through 8 of them before you could find a good one. And you can replace them. If you don't like the public defender, you can replace them. But I recommend that you hire a professional. And then you're going to go back and say, I can't afford one. I can't afford one. And so we got someone that wrote in a text message. Their name is A7H3NA. Welcome. I don't know what city or state you're from, but you ask, what if your court-appointed counsel isn't helping you and you can't afford a private attorney? That's a tough one. I had that problem. I tried for a year and a half. I finally had to sell my home and use that money to hire an attorney. The public defender is worthless. It really is. And you're going to have to get friends or relatives to loan you money, get a credit line on your home, take out a loan, whatever it does, because you'll not succeed without it. I tried for a year and a half. I lost my daughter because of it. I did get my 2 sons back. But right now, I'll explain to you how you can find a good attorney. So what you're going to do is you're going to search it. It's very important for the order of words when you search something up. You should put your first words at the front part of your search as the key words. So your first word will be fine. And you want to say in the city. And you want to give your city and a big name city that's close by. Now, if you're in a big name city, you don't have to do it there. But you want to list those 2 cities. So let's say that you live in Sleepy Hollow. And the biggest city is Dallas, Texas, okay? So you say, find in Sleepy Hollow and Dallas, Texas, a pro bono. Now, the word pro bono means that attorney will do it without charging a fee. If you can't afford an attorney, you want to get a pro bono attorney. And you want to say pro bono family law attorney. It's very important to get the right part of the law. When you have a CPS case, you're doing it in family law. So you say a family law attorney. And what will pop up, hopefully, will be more than 10 names. And what you're going to do is that you're going to look at those 10 names and narrow, and you're going to call them and see if they're in business. Okay, glad to have you, ACH from Salt Lake City, Utah. She said a private attorney, and she's normally assigned to the father, but my original counsel had a conflict of interest, so the original judge. Yeah, you're going to have to get the right judge, and you can change judges, and you can do anything. If you want to get rid of a court-appointed attorney, you either go to the office, or you ask the bench. You approach the bench, the judge, and say, "I no longer want this attorney. Right now, I'm representing myself, and that I need a continuance till I get a professional attorney." And you can ask for a 30-day continuance for your case hearing. So now that you got your list of 10 pro bono family law attorneys, you got to see if they're in business. So you're going to have to call all 10 and ask, how long you've been doing this. Another important question is that, do you fight CPS? That's really important. Do you have attorneys that fight CPS? And if the answer is those no, then that could be one of the 10. Then that's one person. You got to find 9 more that you talk to. Once you complete the list of 10 people you talk to, then you need to do, after you talk to them, you need to pick 5 that you want to have a consultation with them to determine whether you want to hire them or not. Those 5 people you're going to meet with and talk to them and see what they can do. Oh, also, when you're calling the 10, you got to find out if they are pro bono. You got to make sure that they are pro bono. And so that's what you're doing with your feelers, to find out. So you got these 5, and that's where Vincent Davis comes in. He is a family law attorney of over 35 years. He's a trial attorney. He has fought CPS, and he's won cases. Oh, good. We got my co-host that has arrived. Let me add her to the stage.
Hey.
Welcome, Danielle. I know you probably had to fight big waves to get in here with your herd of dogs, but I'm glad you made it.
Yeah, I had a phone call that came about.
That's
like,
okay.
Right when this,
Anyway, I'd like to introduce my audience to Danielle. She too has had CPS experience, and she's fighting to get back her son who turned 18 so that she can be the caregiver because he's a special need child. She wants to take care of her brother and her child, and so she's in the process. The latter part of this month, she's supposed to get good news. He was lost by CPS in another state because they had shipped him from one state to another state because of the special needs. And then during the process, he turned 18 and now they lost him. They think they still got jurisdiction over him. What they need to do is he's an adult. And what Danielle is trying to do is do guardianship to take care of the special needs of this adult. And he's his son. And I think it's going to work.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I had a video visit with him earlier, and it's so funny that all of a sudden, when I said I was only on there 8 minutes, and the person that stands over my son, apparently it's got to be supervised, even with him being over video and 4 states away. Well, when all I said was, can I was like, Alex, you want me to let you go? And because it was getting near his bedtime, and he goes the same time every night. And somebody came on the screen and said, okay, 8 minutes. Okay, it's being recorded, and then hung up. Excuse me, I wasn't done with my video. Yeah. And that kind of, I'm like, okay.
What do you mean 8 minutes? I don't understand what 8 minutes means.
I guess they keep a log but they've never done that before. And I'm wondering if they're trying to make up with the stuff coming up on May 21st, if they're trying to say that and that's fine. So be it. I mean, they're not gonna win. I'm sorry, they're not.
No, you gotta keep persistent. Okay.
Yeah, and that just was so funny because I'm like, what? So who cares if it's being recorded? That's my son. Nothing's going to come in between me and my child, whether it's a screen or, and that, but it just caught me off guard. Like, well,
Yeah.
why? They said it's recorded. What does it matter? Okay. And I have nothing to hide. What's up?
Okay. I've been working with a person in a room that asked a question how to get an attorney. So I'm talking about my rule number 1. And I've got it down narrowed to talking that you have to have a consultation with 5 of these attorneys you found. I told them how to search on the internet. So one of them I suggested is Vincent Davis. And he, has 35 years of experience fighting CPS and getting the children back. He has also sued them. And, he's a professional attorney. I know you like him. Now, to order to set up a consultation with him, you need to call 888-888-6582. Tell him that Bob Pace sent you. And when you speak to Mr. Davis, tell him that Bob Pace sent you. You tell the office that number that you want to set up a consultation with Mr. Davis. He'll do 30 minutes of strategy to fight CPS and get your children back. He'll show you how to navigate and so forth. You also may want to talk about hiring him. Now, his consultation is for 30 minutes and it's $60. And it's a well-spent $60 you'll spend with him because he will help you. He has a podcast he does himself, so you can listen to him if you want to talk to him ahead of time.
He's very,
but it's
very
really,
smart.
really important
Very knowledgeable.
That you get the consultation, and then you got the 4 other people of your list of 5. You need to do the same, and you want to make sure that if they're all talking about money, then don't deal with those 5 people. The thing is, as I said, you're going to find someone pro bono. So hopefully those 5 people are pro bono. One of them is not. Mr. Davis does charge a retainer, but he's reasonable, and he will help you fight your case. There's no question did there. So
can I say something about Mr. Davis?
Yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
Mr. Davis also, when you ask him a question, he don't have, it's like no hesitation. Don't even hesitate. I mean, he answers it. So that says a lot. He's very knowledgeable. He's done it for a long time, and he's very good at what he does. And I have seen that in his podcast and his lives. Like when these people ask him questions, he's like quick. And so he knows what he's talking about. He knows what to do, and no hesitation at all. Like that's awesome. Cause that's a good sign. Like he knows the question, he knows what to answer and what would happen. And so he would definitely be one that I would, if my case was still like brand new case, I would have considered him. Definitely.
Right.
He's been a big help with his little short videos and stuff in what I've needed help with to get just for closure and clearance. Like, yeah, so I can say that.
Well, the person from Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah, which is ACH3NA, if you want to call in, I've already told how you can interact with this podcast 3 ways. So please call in and we'll answer your questions further. But in order to get you an attorney, you can get one. It just takes a lot of perseverance. And I wish I had done it in my case because I wasted a whole year and a half. So,
but it's something
hopefully that helps you answer your question there. The person in Salt Lake City. The rest of you, I'm open for phone calls or text messages. I'm now talking about my rules, and I just gave number 1. So I got 2 more rules, and then we can talk about special topics. Rule number 2 is the paperwork part of CPS. You probably say, ugh, I hate paperwork. Well, I did too. I did no paperwork. What you want to do is you want to create a notebook. So you get a 3-inch binder, which is pretty thick. You get the biggest binder you can find. I think they're up to 6 inches, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, a 3-inch binder is a good one to start off with. And what you do is you stuff it full of notebook paper that has the 3 holes. You get the college rule, and you buy it in packs, and you put it in there. Then you want to get some dividers so you can organize your notebook. And you get some subject dividers. And the first subject that you want to write on a tab is incidents. Now, what I mean by incidents is events that have taken place since CPS has gotten in contact with you. And you arrange them on the paper. That's why a notebook binder you can open and close and sort is a really easy way to move things around. But you start with the first incident, the date, the time, and the people that were involved on your first line. Then your next couple lines, you write down what the incident was about. And then after that, you write the next couple lines, the outcome of the incident. If you don't have an answer, leave some space there. And then after you finish with that first incident, you leave some more spaces and start your second incident, third incident, fourth incident. You might also want to use a highlighter. A yellow or pink works pretty good. And you can highlight certain things you want to look back to, because this notebook is going to be your tool that you're going to keep for the life of the case. You want to keep everything together. And I wish I had thought about that, because I didn't do that. And you won't remember 6 months from now your 40th incident or where the case may be. So that first tab, is a group that's important. Your next tab would be the parenting classes, the program that you're completing, and any drug testing or seeing a psychiatrist or seeing whatever. You want to write that for a list of events. It's basically, you can write the word events, and that would be your parenting classes and your programs if you had to go through an alcohol program or stuff there. Then the third tab you may want to put down is web info, or CPS info, or just the word info. I mean, you have incidents, you have events, now you have info. Info is going to be places you found on the internet, web addresses, phone numbers of people that you have, those kind of things. So that is an information section. So you got the incident section, you got the event section, and you got the info section. And then the remainder of the tabs, you can put it for yourself. As you complete parenting programs, you may want to punch 3 holes and put it in that tab number 2. So you have everything organized and together, because when you go to court or you go see an attorney or, whatever you do, it'll be there with you. It's your CPS notebook, and it's really important to have it. Also, I don't want you to forget about the court papers that you receive. Some will be mailed. Some of them you'll have to go to the court clerk and ask for copies. And they'll provide you copies, some at no charge if you're low income. So it's important you have the court paper, because there we'll discuss your case plan and so forth. Because, it's very important at the beginning of your case that you're well organized. Also, if you have an attorney, that works out good. Now I'm going to jump to step number 3. And this is the important one that myself and everybody makes mistakes on. Do not talk to police or social workers except to be courteous to them and use yes, no answers. It's very important you don't say too much, because they use that against you. So they'll use your, I even saw it today when I was discussing something with a traffic lieutenant who was trying to help me. I mentioned why it's taking so long, and then I mentioned I need transportation to take my son to school, and he says, "Oh, you go to that school? You must have lots of money." And my problem was I should never mention the school. See, even today, I still make mistakes because I try to talk to people with honesty, and they use it against you. So, everybody has woes. I seem to have, if you can picture the Peanuts character, I'm the character with the dark cloud over my head. Okay? It always seems to follow me, and I have more than 10 tasks going at one time that my dam's ready to explode. That's what it is. I'm a Dutch boy with 10 figures in the dam. And so it can go anytime. So I'm always trying to do that. So anyway, this rule number 3 is you don't talk to them, because I did, and it backfired on me. It backfired on me. So what I'm saying is that you can very easily say to them, if it gets really pressurized, either the police or the CPS worker, that I need to speak to my attorney. That's your right. It's your civil right to ask to speak to before we go anything further. Just get their business card, the policeman or the social worker. If the policeman says, I don't have a business card, they have a badge number. If the social worker tries to do the same thing, look at their badge, look at their ID. Because why? Too many times policemen and social workers lie. They don't want to give out their name because they don't want to be caught saying something. Right. So you got to verify that, Also, do not let them in your house. Do not give them permission. They need a court order. They need a warrant to go in your home, or they take your children. Do not give up your children. Keep them outside. Don't let them in your house. They're going to try to stick the door in the door. Don't open it. You don't have to. And so it's your castle. It's your castle. So, it's like I was speaking with a woman this morning, very sweet person. She and her husband had a home out in the desert in LA County. And her father-in-law, owned the property and said to his son and her, they're married, that they could build a home on his property. The mistake they made is he didn't deed any land to them. So the land they built the home on was not legally theirs. And on top of that, the home was built illegal because they didn't get any building permits. And so they had this home here, and suddenly the father-in-law is supposedly a crackhead and had drug problems. He's retired from Hollywood, but I guess he's wealthy enough. Anyway, arguments pursued over something, and suddenly the woman who had the child and her husband, who has the father, is suddenly turned against them. In fact, the whole family seems to be turning against them. Now they're caught up with CPS. She says they're accused of doing domestic violence. The problem being with the case is that she didn't understand when it meant that domestic violence is a criminal matter and someone's got to file it. CPS did not accuse. They accused you of neglect or abuse. And then I tried to pressure her more. And she didn't like what I was saying, so she hung up on me. Wow. She did come back and say, thank you, I'm sorry. But apparently I wasn't giving what she was saying. I was trying to help her. I was trying to understand. It's very hard for you and I to sit on the show and help people if we don't know the whole story. We need to know the beginning, when your case began, what the allegations were, how many children involved, the ages of the children, and whether there's a biological father involved or two biological fathers, or you're married to one of them and you have a fiance. There's been so many complicated relationships. I'm really lost at times, because sometimes I'm talking to a mother who has 3 children, one by one dad, one by another dad, and the third one is by her fiance. So it's kind of like, it's really hard when they just give you bits and pieces. So it's important for us to help it that you tell us everything you can and about your case. I've not forgotten you, A7H3NA. I have told you how to get an attorney. What else can I do for you from Salt Lake City? Again, if you want to be talking on my show, you're free to call in. Now, furthermore, on this thing about saying no to social workers, not leaving your home, don't let them take your child. They got to have a court order. Too many parents take their children down to the CPS's office, and then they are caught where they surrendering their child. do not take them to CPS. You don't need to talk to them. You need an attorney. You need that rule number 1. And so don't forget, they have to have a warrant to come in your home or take your child. Well, looks like the internet got Danielle, but I imagine she'll be back. She tries to. She sometimes has a bad internet connection. So, as I say, there's something called medical trafficking. Now, medical trafficking is where you may take a child in for help at a hospital, and let's say you not agree with what the doctor wants you to do, or you want a second opinion. Now, the social workers, the CPS workers are working in the hospital. They're going to try to take the child from you. That's wrong. Again, they have to have a court order. They can't take a child from you in the hospital. And on top of that, sometimes you're going to give birth and they want to come in the room and take your child because they suspect that you're negligent because you tested positive. But anyway, you got to have a court order. So don't let them take your children. Do not let them take your children. You know, the thing about CPS, I don't know if they heard it or not, but the parents are the best. The biological parents are the best parents for children. It's been proven time after time. Children are bewildered when they're taken into a stranger's home or taken into shelter or group homes or foster care, single family. It's a real traumatic experience. And it's really, really, really sad. It really is. So I tell you, remember those 3 rules. Hire a professional family law attorney. Create a notebook to keep track of all your incidents and all the other things related to your case. And 3, say no to social workers and police, and don't let them take your children, whether they are coming in your home or when you take them down to their office or you're taken into the doctors in there. It's your children. You have parental rights and medical rights. You're not giving those up, even if they're in temporary custody of a caregiver. Your medical and your education rights are not taken. You have to surrender to those. And I know it's really hard out there because, it's hard what you're going through. I'd hope to have some of my regular people come into the room, but I haven't heard from them. The person from Salt Lake City is new. I welcome you there. If Danielle was here, we'd start talking about some of her topics. I was hoping she'd be back by now, but maybe we need to get into some of the topics. And one topic that's really important is a topic dealing with North American Indian children. I'm talking about the children that are in federal recognized Indian tribes in the United States. Now, you either are registered or could be registered with that tribe. Remember, it's got to be a federal recognized Indian tribe, like the Lakota Sioux, like the Crow, like the Iroquois, like the Mohicans, or like the Navajo, or the Comanche, or the Apache, or the Arapaho, or the Chumash Indians in Canada, or the Eskimos in Alaska. Anyway, these Native American tribes are the first immigrants to North America. They came way of the land bridge up off Alaska and Asia. That's where they came from, and they went through Canada and into North America. So this thing called the ICWA, it's a law that was enacted by Congress that said that CPS must ask if your children, if you're Native American Indian, and if so, are you registered or could be registered, and they will contact the tribe because they have to turn the children over to the tribe who place them with the Indian family. And it's a lot better than CPS. Okay, I'm glad to meet you, Athenia. When my son was born, they held him in the nursery because they wanted to secretly test his McNucken. I don't know what that is. Oh, after your drug test came back clean, they had no probable cause to do that. I'm sorry to hear that in Salt Lake City they would do such a thing. For some of you that maybe I'll post it there so you go and see it. Athena is from Salt Lake City. And when her son was born, they held him in the nursery because they wanted to secretly test his melatonin. I guess I should know that, but it's something to probably do with his body parts. After my drug test came back clean, that is stupid that they would do that. I'm so sorry, Athena, on that from Salt Lake City. They said it came back as dirty, but he had no withdrawals. Was that legal for them to do it? I thought you said, oh, you were clean, but it came back dirty. Well, the problem being is that you need to have your doctor run a test of your child because it could have been contaminated. CPS does not know how to do drug testing, and they're going to be biased. And that is not legal for them to do what they did. And if you had an attorney, they would help put a stop to that. Oh, his first poop. Thank you. His stool. Okay. I should know that, but I didn't. I learned something tonight. Thank you for sharing that with me. So his first poop, it came back dirty. If you're tested clean, how would it come back dirty? That's really weird. And again, was that their doctor, their drug test, or was it your doctor? And it was, did you ask for the testing that you have to pay through your medical insurance? So, okay. Hello, Ron. You want to call in now? I'm open for you to talk about your case. You got a whole, 15, say 18 minutes. You can talk now, Ron. I love to have you. Ron has tried for the last couple nights to speak on my podcast. Let me put my phone number up. I know why it's not there because I had yes, I agree with you, Ron. If you could call me at 626-698-0990, I'll gladly have you a chance to talk there. Okay, you're going to call me in the morning. Okay, no problem. No problem. Ron, I forgot what city, state. I think you're from. Oh boy, what was it? Were you from Illinois or Connecticut? I can't. Were you from the Connecticut group? I can't remember. Yeah, you need a private independent testing group there. Oh, Ron said he wrote down what he wanted to say, but he forgot to take it. That's okay. You got time till the morning. Athena, you need to make sure it's a private drug testing outfit. And you have all rights to ask for a drug test of your daughter's first stool. There's no question about that. Right, Iowa. Okay, I'm sorry, Ron. Ron is from Iowa. Glad to have you here, Ron and Athena. We're sitting here talking about the ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act, and how CPS turns over the child to the tribe who puts it in Indian families, and they help you do reunification, and they will. The Indian tribes take good of their own. and a lot better than CPS, and they don't charge the money that CPS does. They get no assistance, the Indian tribes do. They take care of their own, and they put them with Indian families. That's one thing about the culture of the Native American Indians. They're really good. They're like the Polynesians. Family. Europeans like to take care of their families. It's really hard because in the United States, it seems like when you're 18, we're out of there. And parents have to take care of themselves until they die. Which is different. But anyway, uh, Athena's saying, "Is it too late? My son is 4 months." Well, yeah, the test, the first sample, 4 months later is too late. Yeah, you're right. So tell me more about your case. They've had your child for 4 months because he tested positive, and you tested negative. So yeah, 4 months later. Um, do you have a plan? What is your plan for your child? Do you have family reunification as part of your plan, Athena? Okay, going back to the ICWA thing, make sure that if you are a Native American child, that you tell your CPS social worker so they can enact. Or you tell the judge. The judge is supposed to ask you at your first court hearing, are you a Native American Indian? And if you are, then you're entitled to services through CPS on the ICWA. They'll get you in touch with the tribe. So that's really, really important there. There was a couple the other day that were Indians from Arizona, and they were going through the process. They were registered, and CPS was still dragging their feet. You know, it's so hard. Before the show started, I was listening to an orientation video of CPS and listen to all this stuff, and they always make it look so bubbly and so clean and stuff. And I wish I'd watched all that before my incident happened, but no one does. And so that is there. Now, I want to talk about something called a 388. It's a petition to make changes to your current plan. Now, California is called the 388 motion. In Maine, it's called a 388, but other states, it may not be called that. It's a motion to petition the court to have a hearing to introduce changes to your plan or new evidence that you want to submit to the court. So you file the petition with the court, and within 30 days, they have that hearing, and then you got to convince the judge by demonstrating new evidence and so forth, or your attorney has to if you have a professional family law attorney, because that hearing is really important because that's one way that you can talk. I know there's review hearings, there's initial dependency hearings, and then there's the jurisdiction hearing, and then there's the termination hearing. There's all these things you go through, and it's really hard to know them all. But yeah, Athena is too late. I already told you that. So what other questions before I start trying to look up things that can help you? What other questions? I have right now about 12 minutes. I have 11 minutes left, and I'll be ending my case at 8 o'clock. So at 8 o'clock is when my show will be over tonight. There's another show that's going to start at 8 o'clock right after my show. So there's things like that. Let me go over the flow chart. Maybe that would help. I found on the internet a juvenile dependency flow chart. And it starts off where the social services, the CPS, are responding to a referral of suspected child abuse or neglect, and they're removed. And there's two ways the child goes. One, the child is in custody, or two, the child is in, one, the child's not in custody, the other one, child is in protective custody. And the child is not in custody, the petition is dismissed. See, CPS will do a petition, a dependency petition. And in California, it's the Wealth and Institution Code 300 and 325. Now, in other states, the Welfare and Institution Code is going to be different. I know in Maryland it's in the 4000 series, but you need to find the Welfare and Institution Codes of CPS. And 300 and 325 will talk about dependency petition that's filed. And in that one there, they have to have a jurisdictional hearing within 30 days of the petition for the child not to be removed, or 15 days if they're going to remove it. So if the child's not going to remove, they have 30 days. If they're going to remove it, they have 15 days. And then you're going to have your next step is detention initial hearing. And that's Health and Welfare Code of 319. And if the child's in custody, it occurs within 24 hours of filing of the petition. 24 hours of filing on the petition there. Now, Athena says something else here. She says, they're trying to involve another case that's been opened way before my two kids were born, saying how it's going to be a problem. What is your other case, Athena? What is your other case? Okay, she says the case started 2 years ago before my sons were born, and it's not been resolved still. Well, do you have other children besides your two new children? Does your family have more children? The state picked up on the charges, and it's a guy who's charged with kidnapping, rape, and assault against me. Okay, you have a criminal matter because assault and rape is a criminal matter. And CPS, that has no bearing on CPS. What happened to you was unfortunate, and it's a criminal matter. And if it happened 2 years ago, I assume that it's over, right? It is over now. The criminal matter of rape and assault, which is a horrible thing for a woman to go through, a very horrible thing. Athena from Salt Lake City, Utah. That case should have no bearing on the current case with your children. Well, that is in criminal court? Am I not correct? Is that case in criminal court? Is it still, because you need to close it? It should not still be open. There's something called due process. They should have done that thing within so many as 45 days. He's not the father of your children. Understand. But it's a criminal matter. Is it not a criminal matter? It's not a criminal matter. If it's a criminal matter, like domestic violence is a criminal matter, and domestic violence will be in a criminal court. They do not handle rape or things like that. So, well, again, what involvement do you have in the critical matter? Because that act was on you. And do you have an attorney, Athena? If you don't have an attorney, you're like a fish that just got caught and you're slowly dying because you have no oxygen, because you need to be in the water to get your oxygen. So you're flipping around. So you need an attorney to resolve this. These kind of matters always require attorneys. They said it wasn't domestic violence because I don't live with the guy, but it's still in the criminal court, and the state picked up the charges. So now I'm a witness and here to testify. Yes, but that should have no bearing on your CPS case. It should have no bearing at all. I would think that if you have a dependency case with your child right now, that your court appointed attorney could solve that problem, because all you have to do is show that you're witness only on that. That should have no bearing on your case. Okay. Yeah, a victim advocate is not an attorney. That's a layperson that will help you through the case, but they don't know the laws. You need an attorney that can navigate there. But the problem being is that it needs it in the CPS course. I don't know what stage you're in your CPS matter. I need you to give me more information. You've told me that he tested positive, your child's stool tested positive, so they're assuming that you're a druggie. But I don't know what your case plan is, whether there's family reunification or not, where the child is at. I assume he's in foster care, or with a family friend. I hope he's with a family relative. That'd be the best thing. I don't know how it's going to be ability to be a parent because you're raped. It is traumatic, and you have an advocate that is good. That's a good thing to have, but you probably are seeing a therapist or something regarding that. Yeah, well, that is true about foster homes. I agree that there are troubled kids out there, but that doesn't really have anything to do with your CPS case. Um, this is a tough one, Athena. What you should do is you should email my producer, Grace at vincentwdavis.com, and ask to be on my show. Schedule a time that's comfortable for you, and then you can talk the whole hour, and we'll try to help you. Or the same is true with my co host, Danielle. And so Ron now has said something. Ron mentioned the child was living with foster parents. Yep, they do that, Ron. There's no question about that. So, Athena, please do that. Or tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock Pacific time, be first in line to call me at 626 698 0990. I'm going to have to end the show because time is up. I want to thank Ron from Iowa. And I want to thank Athena from Salt Lake City, Utah, for text me messages and try to help. I want to tell you, don't give up. God bless you all. And good night. I'll see you in the morning. Bob Pace signing off.